Does it feel like fairy plus mermaid? Thank God, that orange was getting really bright. I have a cup of ginger tea that I made. I'm gonna bring over here real quick. As I shut the door, also. So the ginger tea, it's in my Isode cup. So my ginger tea is, you buy the chunks of ginger, the raw ginger, at the grocery store, preferably organic. Let me do that with more reverence. Organic. Then you peel it, and you chop it up, and then you stick it. Doesn't matter how you chop it up, just slice it. And then you stick it in a pot. It's like this big. Not the huge, you can. But you fill the pot up with water and boil it on like medium simmer for like 2 to 3 hours. And then it gets warm. It's like caramelized, warm looking water. And it doesn't taste that good. But then you put a few tablespoons of brown sugar in it. And then it's like sweet, spicy ginger tea. Like the real stuff. So good. I learned how to make it on my hunger strike when I was with Shay. We learned a few things. 1, how to do the ginger tea. And then 2, how to do chai tea lattes. So, NETZACH. Oh, that's spicy. I'm getting really good feedback. Not a lot, but a little, which is more than I used to, on the content coming through in the Kabbalah class. People are liking the videos, and they're like wanting to watch more, like they're invested. Some of the stuff is exciting for them, and they're starting to resonate. Let me not drop the quality of this class yet, because all of a sudden 4 people like what I do. This is a teaching on narcissism. That all of a sudden, like, oh my God, somehow I'm going to buy in to my success, and then all of a sudden stop trying. No. NETZACH is interesting because it's like you got permission, at least you got permission to enter the Garden of Eden again. So it's like at that point, what do you do? So you're like, oh, God graced me to not be a slave to the matrix. So do I fawn and create, art and beauty as a service? Or do I indulge in my own grandeur? And that's where narcissism comes from. Most of you guys haven't even passed Hode yet. Not in the physical. to even get into NETZACH to indulge in narcissism. So if you're even talking about narcissism, there is an issue. It means, one, you haven't even gotten to the source of where narcissism even stems from to even be able to then graduate from it. So if you're not in NETZACH, it's 'cause you're a narcissist. Period. There are a few things. So God's teaching for narcissism. Because I'm like, how do I explain narcissism to people without getting angry? Or in a really clear way. And God has a really good teaching. How do I get a rose to not indulge in its own beauty? For me, it's more like, how do I not continually like pat myself on the back for what I say? I feel like narcissism for me is a necessity on planet Earth because I have been starved to death, beaten to death, and completely rejected and unloved my entire life. So at that point, it's like, how do I self-love, self-applaud enough to have the courage to even move forward? So that's the shadow component. No, that's not a bad, it's not a bad thing. That's at that point, it's the tool, right? Like, it's like saying a white lie to somebody. It's not great, but I'm at the bottom of the barrel in NETZACH. I know my place. So you'll see a lot of pictures of mermaids being popped up, and you'll see that they're indulging in their hair, like it's that. Okay, NETZACH is mermaid and fairy. Okay, it's like an artist that creates a piece of artwork and then just can't stop looking at it. Even if it's a masterpiece. Be like Michelangelo, looking at his own stuff. Is Michelangelo the one with the Sistine Chapel? I'm pretty sure. My art history after the last decade of my life has been Michelangelo. And then we go Sistine. Yeah. Okay, so it would be like Michelangelo just not being able to stop staring at his own work. You guys think Trump's a narcissist? Like, that's like, Trump's a demon. You guys are narcissists. Period. I don't ever want any of my students, unless you're saying something as profound as like God's teaching, how do I get a rose to not indulge in its own beauty? I don't want ever my students to write essays on narcissists. Be better than that. Please. I don't even like using the word. The problem is that once we get to NETZACH, we have to, because it's the vice of NETZACH. So you'll see the pictures of the fairies and the mermaids, and they'll be petting each other's hair, and that, like, even in Peter Pan, which is going to be another movie for NETZACH, even in Peter Pan, like, the mermaids are like, they're so beautiful, and they're so cruel. And not in a bad way, but, like, they could do better things. Like, make friends with a dragon kind of thing. Okay? This is where I start feeling Lucifer's vice. It's a NETZACH. It's only a little bit, but it's there. Just a little bit of the narcissist. Man. So NETZACH is gonna be about, we're doing it on the fairy moon and the harvest moon for the youthing. So it really works well for both. Because in NETZACH is vision of the beauty triumphant. NETZACH is land of Fae, fairy wonderland, Garden of Eden, Never Never Land. Okay, it's Pandora, the mystical garden that is unacceptable to all the troll humans that are jerking off and hoed. Like, it's bad. So NETZACH is not like Biggest Little Farm. It's like Biggest Little Farm with sparkle dust. Okay. NETZACH, like in Biggest Little Farm would be Malkuth with a very healthy NETZACH. But NETZACH would be the Garden of Eden version of Biggest Little Farm. Okay. So it's gradations. Sparkle healing water. All fairy magic. All fairy magic belongs to NETZACH. Just remember the mermaids in Peter Pan. Peter Pan and the god Pan, same Pan, okay? There's a reason why that name is there. It's the god that Pan's a god. It's the god that tricked higher god how to stay in the Garden of Eden forever. Pan, Never Never Land, same thing. And then we have Pandora. So all of it's just Pan. The mermaids in Pan are mean. So just because you're in NETZACH doesn't mean like it's heaven. Just like in Pandora, like the cruelty of the natural world is mean. But it's still it's still heaven. We would be blessed on this planet to even create a NETZACH planet. period. That's the goal. That's my goal. I can only see like 3 like huge galactic shifts of the planet. And then I think that's Hathor is going to try to make her third be the Tiferet level. I don't even know what that looks like. But it would be she'll go from Harry Potter land to do Egypt, Pandora, and then her brain might explode just thinking, how do I get planet Earth into Tiferet land? Her brain's going to explode going, how do I create Pandora land? But it's really going to explode Tiferet land. This is everything. Life is hard. It's going to be work. Doesn't matter how evolved you are. This is the job. The fun thing about NETZACH is that there are so few people in NETZACH that there's like, and it's so luscious that the mind chatter disappears. And the energy is so alpha to Hode that there's no comparison. It's like Maleficent taking on 300 soldiers. That's NETZACH versus Hode. Just so you understand. The hierarchy is NETZACH's way more important than the crap in Hode. And that's where Daenerys shows up with the dragon, and she's the hero and not the bad guy. To show up with the dragon, you've had to have been blessed by Mommy Goddess in NETZACH. So you're a holy person. You're one of the dragon fae. So if you burn down an entire planet of muggles, that's what Mommy Goddess wanted. That's NETZACH. That's why the tower sits in between NETZACH and Hode. Because NETZACH's going to destroy Hode no matter what. Because it's the alpha, and Hode is usually low. The gradations it will take to manifest Pandora on Earth is like huge. So we'd even just have to terraform the planet into Biggest Little Farm style, and then put Hogwarts castles on it, and then start doing all the magic and doing the quantum stuff, and then all the science hoity-toities are going to try to create technologies that are disgusting. They're already creating technologies that are disgusting. And NETZACH's just going to burn them all down. Because that's life. This is why the men with that over-logical brain that cannot compute fairy law is a problem. Fairy law first. You have to pass fairy judgment, and they're much harder than the elves. Let me give you an example of fairy judgment. When you start walking on grass and seeing the fairies telling you where to step and where to not step, then you know you're being trained. They will micromanage everything. And you'll have to learn how to be like, not step on them. This lesson was in Cora, by the way. Not that she understood it. But sometimes my overly masculine brute self doesn't listen to the fairies, and they get annoyed real fast, real easy. They're hypersensitive, and they care about the grass on the planet more than any human. That's what it takes to exist in NETZACH, is being like that level of intuition and empathy. You have to be empathetic to the grass more than humans stomping on the grass. It's a paradigm rewrite. Farmers markets, organic, just everything you can do that's fairy blessed. Or you're working against them. Remember, the students in this class have grace, so you don't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You're always going to be walking on eggshells with the fairies until they purify your body. I'm trying to think of another message coming through. Yeah, this is why nobody gets into NETZACH. Because they'd have to live in NETZACH. People don't get it. This is the green lighter from the Peter Pan garden I got, or we found. Another thing about NETZACH is this. It literally no longer becomes an I, it's a we. Like, the fairies in me. Like, and that helps you get out of the narcissism real quick. The dragons and me, the fairies and like, okay. Because it's a team at that point. And to get into Pixie Land and Tiferet, you go, oh, faith, trust, and we are a team and we're working together. Like, that's why I'm not in Tiferet yet, because I still need to do it. So, NETZACH, you're gonna override every single weird disbelief system, because everything changes. Nothing is without sense. It's fairy sense instead of human sense. Do humans have sense? I don't know. But we'll see. So, fairy sense is I can tell the richness of this. Like, I can see the high quality of that. Is fairy sense, right? One of the better downloads I got today before starting this red light candle ceremony was one of the wands, the stick. I'm like, do I need to keep it in my space? And this is the way that you can start to purify. This is why you get rid of everything in Hode, by the way. Anything that's not practical, you get rid of in Hode. Fairy sense is not practical. It's hyper practical. It's not the antithesis of practical. It's above it. Fairy sense goes, I know I destroy the soil when I stomp on it, and the microorganisms that are trying to create stuff. Hyper practical, okay? It's extra sensitive. So with the wand, Sandalphon comes through and goes, is it practical or beautiful? No, get rid of it. So if it's not practical and beautiful, off the table. I don't need wands that are just, because why? My heart's not into it. So the fairy is that exalted beauty. That's why Art Nouveau was a movement in the 1920s, like a beautiful movement. It was the fairy movement. I have this headband I wanted to get because it has a special grid on it, special magic. It's the one-way mirror magic. Just so you guys understand, whatever you guys are projecting at me are reflections of you guys. But what I project at you is probably the truth, if not much higher. Let me get that clear. It's the truth. The narcissism comes in when I pat myself on the back, thinking that this is not the voice of 5 million fairies. That all of us, like, I'm alone? No, I'm not alone. There will be movies for NETZACH that are very intuitive. And Elizabeth Gilbert, she did a TED Talk, I think, but it's on the list. The Elusive Creative Genius. I hope that it still exists. She talks about, as an artist, you are a vessel. These creations you produce do not belong to you. So J.K. Rowling does not own Harry Potter. She was the vessel that it was chosen. All right. So this prevents narcissism. Now the fairies are angry just because she thinks she owns it, not to mention a global production and marketing around it. Just to give you guys the level of insanity of how against God you guys are. That's why the planet looks like shit and everybody's dying of cancer. It's karma. Misty is gonna get into NETZACH because she's a mermaid fairy that can do this. These ballerinas, if they get over themselves, are very inclined to harness Fae energy. And they purify and purify and purify, and day after day after day. All right, enough of that. The dragons start coming through NETZACH. Much more. This is why in Harry Potter, they were not dragon people. They were against the dragons because that's Hode still. Only Rubeus Hagrid, who would go and venture into the NETZACHian lands, really liked the dragons, okay? Because otherwise they were taming them and trying to control them instead of, like, bonding. NETZACH, it's Daenerys bonding with her dragon. They're of the same species, connected through the nature cycle. Blessed through nature. Mother Nature will always be, real nature will always alpha Hode. I'm looking for an argument. Even the Greek god of Zeus, lightning shooting out of its nature. Even if he lived in a building. So, the tarot is going to be interesting for NETZACH. Pull out your 7 cards and put them on the altar. If you're just starting Hode, and then do your Hode stuff with the 8 cards. And then we'll come into NETZACH. The class list for NETZACH is going to be a class called the Muse. And this is where we're going to receive the 12 initiations of mastery. It's a class done by Star, and I hear her in the ethers going, I want this class to come through. Then we will do Rose Magic. Kind of an offshoot of what Selena taught, but different. What we will do is use the Rosy Cross, and I'll teach you some of that. But because NETZACH's flower is the rose, I'm going to teach you a fairy magic version of rose magic. And then we have the class, the NETZACH, which is the space gateway to get into NETZACH. That's a weird one. I haven't downloaded the content yet. Part of me still feels like that's alien Hode energy trying to get into NETZACH. And then we have the Virtue and Vice series, which will be titled The Serpent and the Witch. So it's how to get with the serpent back into the Garden of Eden. And so Pan plays that, and the dragons play that archetype, and that brings you back into, helps anchor in your delusion of living in NETZACH, because if you look outside, it's not there yet. So we're gonna fake it till we make it until it's made. What else? So we have jealousy and envy. That's another vice issue. And then there is green with envy. Selfless will be a class. Narcissism, that it's the opposite of selfless, right? And then we have nature. So I think I'm gonna do harmony with nature. Yeah, we don't live with harmony with nature at all. That's why nobody's in NETZACH. So mine is the victorious life. This is the last class, and this is the class everybody's going to need, because this is, we're going to do the emotional body teaching on emotions, how to deal with them, the education around the emotions. And that's why you'll see Inside Out, and Inside Out is in this. I know that I don't normally discuss the movies in these videos. I really wish that I did, but that just would be another video. So I'll do a little bit here. For the movie Inside Out, there's a normal system where it's 4 layers of the emotional body. It's like joy, anger, fear, and sadness. Those are your emotions. But they add disgust. And I never understood why. And then Mother Andromeda would come through and she goes, "Ew is your superpower." Like when you're disgusted by people's behavior, ew. It's like, it's a communication that it's against everything fairy. Ew. So it's a very positive emotion. Do you understand? I'm going to teach you guys that your emotions are more important than being positive, including your sadness. Sorrow exists at the top of the tree. So it definitely exists at the bottom. Sorrow exists at Bina. So it's not spiritual. And I think that's the delusion that everybody lives in, because to even access your third eye, your soul, you'd have to understand sorrow. This is going to be a very, very deep healing for everybody. And break through the crazy. Just so we get this clear, the right brain controls the left side of the body. So that's the feminine. So Bina is the feminine, but the left, so Hesed and Netzach are also the feminine. So it reverses at the abyss, just like our brains and how it works with our body. Chokmah, the left brain, controls the right side of the body, the masculine. Okay, so Chokmah is the masculine, and then Gebra and Hod are the masculine. So Hermione is a masculine girl. She's the lighting changed. At least it's not like from orange to yellow. So Hermione is a masculine girl. So like Hermes, hermaphrodite. In NETZACH, you can just go into Aphrodite. It's really hard for a man to do that, even if they're a drag queen. It's in the biology. It's not impossible. It's hard. It's hard for me to do it. I've been doing Kabbalah for a decade. All right. So here you have little L, or Aurora. That's Hermione. And then in NETZACH, you have Maleficent. So Maleficent's way more powerful than Hermione. And she's just in the negative, dark femme. And that's just NETZACH versus Hod. So all the men have no idea what they're up against at all. And for the men to get into NETZACH, they'd have to subscribe to Maleficent. Because Maleficent's like the NETZACH queen. So they're never going to. Maybe Freeman. They'd have to be approved by her. She's fairy judgment. The bar is set at Maleficent. Now in Bina is like Maleficent's Rava. So it's the unmanifest that NETZACH has access to. So a galaxy, space, Bina, okay? think of an older, timeless, galactic Maleficent, like grandmother Maleficent. Yeah, men are never gonna understand NETZACH to even understand Bina. So in NETZACH, with a good balance that you've gotten through Hod, and now you're going into NETZACH, and then there is the death purification process to get into Tiferet. And this is why Jesus failed. Jesus didn't have the same problems on the planet with an entire civilization raping it and polluting the right. So, and then there weren't, you have to understand all of these archetypes, and then we can succeed. So Haniel is just Maleficent with the Dove of Peace. And the Dove of Peace is like, peace out. I don't have to troll with you guys at all. So it gives you a huge sense of peace because you don't have to go into Hod anymore. You can do all of your work from NETZACH. And you can take a space, and this is why it's also green. It's green, the healing energy. You can start to actually heal. Anything else? The little green dragons. This is the difference. If I owned a conglomerate for the little green dragons, it's not the same as J.K. Rowling owning Harry Potter. Because the dragons are working through me, and I have control over the quality, and the message coming through is from the dragons. It's different. Period. So be mindful. That's that. Oh, we've got one more one-way mirror. I'm gonna love this. This magic is the best. Just remember, even if Maleficent's the queen of NETZACH, she still has karma. It's just different. Like if she curses the child, she's bound to the curse that she did on Elle, but then she can learn and evolve and grow through it. The one-way mirror teaching. Star's been coming through psychically going, I'm getting the whole lineage to get into NETZACH. The Mayan lineage has been running as much NETZACH energy as possible, and they've been able to do that because of the Slava. Whereas the mystery school missed out. And then Mommy Star carries the Maleficent gene also. So, woohoo. Look how pretty that is. If the Tara is watching this, I burn your candles, the rainbow, for each Sephiroth. And for Malkuth, I did the lime green one to get out of denial, because that was the O world. Cool, huh? All right. This is the initiator candle. It used to have a pedestal that was in the shape of a square that it would sit on, and that broke today. And the same day, I buy the new one. So it's God's replacement magic. I do not have to be a square anymore. Hopefully that's me transcending my Hermione grids as much as possible. All right, 1 to initiate, 2 to activate, 3 to portal it through. And then I light it up with my already blood roasting Repello Squibtum candle. It's like a birthday cake. It should feel like a birthday to everyone. If you're a man watching this video and you want to get into NETZACH, you need to give up your life and figure out how to free the whales. That's what's required. All right. Blood soaked. And biggest little farm, the planet. This is an and instead of an or. There's a grace period because you're in this class. You get grace in Malkuth. But you still have to do it. All right. 1 to initiate. 2 to activate. 3 to portal it through. And we light it with the initiator candle. One to initiate, 2 to activate, and 3 to portal it through. Okay. Welcome to NETZACH. This should be fun. The peace that comes through is beyond meditating. Because in meditation, there's always the anxiety of coming back to the real world and not being in the meditation. So it's like the brain just heals, and it's like white light in a state of peace. Without anxiety. All right. Kali Ren out.